The Pennsylvania town of Reading is a place where life moves at an unhurried pace. Known for its historical significance and small-town charm, its streets wind between rows of neatly kept homes and local businesses. But in 2010, this quiet community would find itself at the center of a story so horrific that it shocked not only the locals but also the entire nation. This is the story of Michelle Kalina, a mother, a caregiver, and a killer. For years, she lived a double life, concealing crimes so dark that even those closest to her struggled to reconcile the woman they knew with the atrocities she committed. Michelle Kalina was born in 1967 and lived an unassuming life. She worked as a home health aide, assisting elderly patients with their daily needs. Known by her co-workers and neighbors as quiet but dependable, Kalina didn't stand out in any remarkable way. She was married to her husband, Jeffrey Kalina, for decades, and together they had a daughter, Elizabeth. Yet beneath the surface of this ordinary existence, Kalina harbored secrets that would ultimately unravel her life and devastate those around her. The cracks in Kalina's facade began to show in the early 2000s. Though married, she carried on a years-long extramarital affair with a coworker. The relationship was tumultuous, marked by secrecy and betrayal. During this time, Kalina became pregnant multiple times. Instead of confronting the realities of her situation or confiding in her family, she chose a horrifying path. Kalina repeatedly concealed her pregnancies from her husband, daughter, and even her lover. She took great lengths to hide her growing belly, blaming weight gain on hormonal changes or health issues. To those around her, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Between 1996 and 2010, Kalina gave birth to at least 5 babies in secret. But these children would never see the light of day. In each instance, Kalina reportedly delivered the babies alone, in her home, and immediately took measures to end their lives. The full details of these moments remain shrouded in mystery, but investigators later uncovered evidence suggesting that Kalina either suffocated or otherwise caused the deaths of her newborns. After committing these unthinkable acts, Kalina wrapped the bodies in towels or bags and stored them in her home. Disturbingly, she placed some of the remains in a closet or her apartment storage area, where they remained hidden for years. The grisly truth began to emerge in July 2010. Kalina's teenage daughter, Elizabeth, stumbled upon a sealed container in the family's apartment. Inside, she found skeletal remains. Horrified, Elizabeth contacted the authorities, who quickly launched an investigation. When police arrived at the Kalina residence, they were unprepared for the magnitude of what they would uncover. Over the next several days, investigators recovered multiple containers, each holding the remains of infants. The forensic evidence revealed that some of the remains dated back over a decade. Kalina initially denied any wrongdoing. She claimed that she had suffered miscarriages and was unaware of the remains. However, forensic examination told a different story. The bodies bore signs of intentional harm, leading investigators to conclude that these were not miscarriages but deliberate acts of murder. Faced with mounting evidence, Kalina confessed to giving birth in secret and disposing of the babies. However, she remained vague about her motives, offering little insight into the twisted rationale behind her actions. Prosecutors later suggested that Kalina's primary motive was to maintain her double life, avoiding the repercussions of her affair and the strain another child would place on her family. Kalina was charged with multiple counts of homicide, abuse of a corpse, and concealing the deaths of her newborns. During her trial, the prosecution painted a chilling portrait of a woman who methodically carried out her crimes over many years. They described her actions as calculated and cold, driven by a desire to maintain control over her carefully constructed life. The defense, meanwhile, argued that Kalina suffered from mental health issues, including depression and possible dissociation. They contended that she was overwhelmed by her circumstances and lacked the capacity to fully understand the consequences of her actions. Despite these claims, the jury was unmoved. In 2011, Michelle Kalina was convicted and sentenced to a lengthy prison term. The exact duration of her sentence became a point of debate, with some arguing that her punishment should reflect the sheer horror of her crimes. The revelation of Kalina's actions left the town of Reading reeling. Neighbors who had known her for years struggled to reconcile the friendly, reserved woman they saw with the monster described in court. Friends and family members grappled with feelings of betrayal and disbelief, questioning how such atrocities could have gone unnoticed for so long. Kalina's husband, Jeffrey, and daughter, Elizabeth, became reluctant figures in the media spotlight. They publicly condemned her actions but also expressed deep sorrow for the loss of the children they never had the chance to know. Michelle Kalina's case stands as one of the most chilling examples of maternal filicide in modern history. It raises unsettling questions about the nature of human behavior, the capacity for deception, and the dark extremes to which individuals can go to protect their secrets. For the residents of Reading, the memory of Kalina's crime serves as a haunting reminder that even the most ordinary lives can conceal unimaginable horrors. To this day, her name remains synonymous with betrayal, cruelty, and the fragility of trust. The story of Michelle Kalina is not just one of murder but also of the profound failure of those around her to see the signs. It forces a society to confront uncomfortable truths about isolation, denial, and the hidden darkness that can exist within seemingly ordinary lives. As Kalina serves her sentence, the world is left to grapple with the scars of her actions. The families of her victims, those tiny lives extinguished before they had a chance to begin, carry the heaviest burden, mourning not only the loss but also the monstrous betrayal of someone who should have been their protector. Understanding what drove Michelle Kalina to commit such horrifying acts has remained a point of debate among experts. Was it purely a selfish desire to maintain her double life, or did deeper psychological factors come into play? Mental health professionals who analyzed Kalina's case speculated that she may have suffered from a psychological disorder, possibly postpartum psychosis or dissociative tendencies. These conditions can distort a person's perception of reality, leading them to make decisions that defy logic or morality. However, many argued that her actions went beyond mental illness, as they demonstrated planning and intent. Each pregnancy was carried to term in complete secrecy, a nearly impossible feat without calculated effort. Kalina chose to isolate herself during critical stages of her pregnancies, avoiding questions and concealing her condition from even those closest to her. This level of deception suggested a chilling awareness of her actions, making it harder to reconcile her crimes with claims of diminished responsibility. For Jeffrey and Elizabeth Kalina, the fallout from Michelle's actions was devastating. Jeffrey, her husband, admitted in interviews that he had been unaware of her pregnancies. While their marriage had been strained for years, he never suspected that his wife harbored such dark secrets. He later expressed guilt for not recognizing the signs, though many agreed that Kalina's efforts to conceal her actions were masterful. Elizabeth, on the other hand, faced an immense emotional burden. As the one who discovered the remains, she became both a key witness and a victim of her mother's crimes. The trauma of finding her siblings' remains haunted her for years, leaving her with profound trust issues and a deep sense of loss for the siblings she never knew. Both Jeffrey and Elizabeth distanced themselves from Michelle after her conviction, refusing to visit her in prison. For them, moving on meant severing ties with the woman they once called wife and mother. News of Michelle Kalina's crimes spread like wildfire, dominating headlines and sparking debates across the nation. The story tapped into primal fears about betrayal within the family unit, a space traditionally associated with safety and love. Many in Reading expressed disbelief that such horrors could occur in their community. Neighbors who had shared conversations and smiles with Kalina were left questioning their own ability to judge character. Others criticized local authorities and social systems, wondering how someone could conceal multiple pregnancies and deaths without raising any alarms. The case also ignited discussions about the stigma surrounding pregnancy and infidelity. Advocates argued that societal pressures might have contributed to Kalina's secrecy, though this reasoning did little to excuse her actions. Michelle Kalina now spends her days in prison, far removed from the life she once led. Inmates and staff alike view her with a mixture of curiosity and revulsion, as her crimes stand out even among those of other convicted murderers. Reports from prison officials suggest that Kalina remains largely unrepentant, offering few details about her motivations or regrets. Her behavior behind bars has been described as quiet and cooperative, yet unsettling. She avoids speaking about her crimes and rarely engages with others, further cementing her reputation as an enigma, a killer who defies easy explanation. Despite the convictions and evidence, many questions about Michelle Kalina's case remain unanswered. Why did she continue to carry pregnancies to term if she intended to harm the babies? Was there a part of her that hoped for a different outcome, only to be overwhelmed by fear or guilt? Or was she coldly determined to erase any evidence of her infidelity? Investigators and psychologists alike have speculated about the possibility of more victims. Could there be other pregnancies and deaths that were never discovered? The very idea is chilling, suggesting that the full extent of Kalina's crimes may never be known. The impact of Michelle Kalina's actions rippled far beyond her immediate family. The local community, once a place of neighborly trust, became a landscape of suspicion and grief. Families questioned how well they truly knew their loved ones, and many felt a newfound fear of hidden darkness in their own lives. For years after her conviction, the Kalina home stood as a grim reminder of the horrors that had unfolded within its walls. Some locals suggested tearing it down, while others argued it should remain as a cautionary tale about the consequences of secrecy and denial. At the heart of this tragic story are the babies whose lives were stolen before they could even begin. They remain nameless to the public, referred to only as the Kalina infants. Their brief existence and violent deaths are a stark reminder of the vulnerability of life and the fragility of trust. In their memory, several community members organized vigils and fundraisers to support organizations that aid women facing crisis pregnancies. These efforts aim to prevent similar tragedies, offering resources and support to those who might otherwise feel trapped or desperate. The story of Michelle Kalina is one that lingers in the minds of all who hear it. It challenges our understanding of morality, mental illness, and the lengths to which a person will go to protect their secrets. Kalina's actions stand as a chilling testament to the human capacity for deception and cruelty. Yet her case also serves as a call to vigilance, a reminder that the signs of darkness can sometimes be hidden in plain sight. In the end, the true tragedy of Michelle Kalina's crimes lies in the lives that were lost, the trust that was shattered, and the scars that will never fully heal.